Hi everyone, so it's prompt reveal week, but before I get to that I'm just going to show you that I feel like I've finished a few strands there. I feel like I've finished my nutcracker. So I've done some extra embellishment. I added some turkey work in the middle there. I did some drizzle stitch with a sparkly Suspago thread. I did a little bit of stitching here and there, outlined the crown, put a little not centered sequin, but I realized I didn't center my crown. But anyway, the whole thing is a little bit skewed to the right. So it could be almost like he's turning his head a little bit. I finished off the little buttons with sequins. I just did some open lazy daisy stitches up the sleeves to look like there was some embroidery, some French knots for buttons in gold. I did a little bit of gold stitching down the stick, some French knots in a sparkly blue thread, some little embellishments on his boots, and then I finished off his staff or stick, whatever you call it. The bell there, it doesn't really ring because of how I stitched it down, but I did some beading on my ruby and a little bit of gold stitching to make it kind of look like a ruby, kind of. Some beading embellishments, sequins and beads. So I'm actually really happy with this one. I think along with my reindeer block, they're my two favourites that I've done. And for everyone that thinks the teeth are scary, I don't think they're too bad. But that's like what the nutcracker teeth kind of look like. So anyway, that block's done, and now it's time for the prompt reveal. And the new prompts for this week are: Christmas theme is a gingerbread house. Quite excited about this one. It's going to be some fun. And the winter theme is a log cabin, or if you prefer, you could do a winter house, up to you. But I can visualize some really cool log cabins as well, sort of a wintry log cabin. So hopefully you like the idea of these prompts. I'm keeping with the Christmas theme. I've pretty much done all Christmas themes so far, and I'm going to do the gingerbread house. So today on my video, I'm going to show you what I'm going to use for my background. Something that's one of my favorite things is going to be my background. And then I'm going to show you my ideas for my for my gingerbread house. And today I'll actually be working on my gingerbread house and try and get quite a bit of it done. So it'll probably be a longer video. Who knows? We'll see what happens. And hopefully it gives you some ideas to get yourself started. Okay, so the first thing is my background. I absolutely love old pieces of quilt, and particularly I love feed sacks. So this is an old piece of quilt. I can't remember where I got it from, and this is like my dream. Okay, I love Hexagon quilts. They are my favorite. It is my favorite pattern. I'm actually currently sewing one. I can show you a little bit. Hang on, where is it? Behind me. Oh, sorry, just reaching for it. I'm currently sewing one for Jamie. So he wants me to make him a Hexagon quilt in this specific size. It's very Christmassy, these colours, or it goes along with my journal pages. And he wanted the colours of red, blue, green, and then sort of some greys, neutrally kind of colours. So this is where I'm at the moment. Anyone that's a quilter knows that these are all fully hand stitched, and it takes, like, I haven't joined all of it yet, it takes a really, there's my thread I'm using, a really long time to stitch everything by hand. So he's currently 16, and I told him by the time he's about 21 I might finish this. So anyway, I love hexagons. So does Jamie. So he'll gradually get his hexagon quilt. So what I'm going to do is, even though I know there's a mix of colours here and it's not specifically Christmas, I'm going to cut out a piece of this quilt here, making it about the same size as my nutcracker block. I'm going to cut out, and I'm going to leave the little bits along the bottom. okay, and have them hanging out in my journal. So this is going to be my background basically, and then my gingerbread house, I'm going to do it in a piece of old linen. Okay, so that's going to be my gingerbread house is going to sit on top. Won't be quite that big, that's a bit big, but it'll sit on top of my Hexie quilt. So you'll only see bits of the Hexie around the outside. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to pop off camera for a minute. I'm going to cut my piece of old quilt and I'm going to cut out the shape of my gingerbread house. It is going to be a fairly traditional shape, which is basically what I just folded with the roof in the middle, and it'll be a bit narrower than that. Okay, and then I'm going to talk to you about my ideas. So it'll be about that size, if you get my idea. Okay, so I'm going to cut it out off camera and I'll be back in a sec. Okay, so to show you where I'm at, I've cut my piece of Hexie quilt, and on the back I just pinned it to just a piece of white cotton, just because this is an old quilt and it's very, very thin, delicate fabrics. So just wanted to stabilize the piece a little bit better. And then what I did is I tore a piece of linen. So for example, like that was the linen, but a bit taller, I just ripped it. And then I folded it in half and I cut, just folding it in half, I cut, just eyeballed it, cut the angle off so that I got an even roof. Now I'm going to attach the base of my gingerbread house as needle turn applique. So what I'm going to do, using my little craft iron, I'm just going to fold in the edges. I'm doing it a little bit bigger than 1/4 of an inch, and I'm just going to eyeball it and iron it down. Okay, just so when I stitch it down it's easier rather than trying to fold and stitch at the same time. So just rotating my fabric, I might do this side next. And I don't want my house to cover up the whole block at the back, so I am actually turning it in quite a fair way. And then I'll test it in a sec. I'll test it on my block, see if I'm happy with the dimension of the house, and if I need to change it I can. So just folding up the bottom. Could actually, what you could do, because there's quite a bit of fabric there, I could actually cut that corner away, which I might do before I stitch it down, just because you do have quite a bit of bulk there on that corner. So one side of the roof. And I must say, my walls are not necessarily going to be perfectly straight. We'll check it out when I roll it over. Let's have a look. Okay, that's pretty good dimension. Okay, let's have a look and see how much of my background it covers up. Okay, that's good. That's about the size I was after. Okay, so you still get the nice effect of the hexies around the outside. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I will pin this in place, just eyeballing it to somewhat center it. Hopefully it's fairly centered. I'll just pin it down, and I am going to applique that in place. Now I'll just turn off my iron. All right, I'm pretty happy with where that's positioned. Okay, I am just going to show you quickly my ideas for my gingerbread house. So all I did was I went onto Pinterest. Hopefully you can see this. I'll just bring it up. And I just looked up gingerbread houses, both real ones made out of gingerbread and also gingerbread illustrations. And I just doodled things I like the look of. So different shapes of windows and doors and decorations on roofs and little embellishment features just to give myself ideas, snowflakes, lots of little embellishments. And having drawn a lot of different things, I've kind of settled on this. I don't know if I'll fit the tree or I want to do a gingerbread man, so I might fit him somewhere. We'll work out if I fit the tree, I might not. Okay, so if you're a little bit intimidated or you're not quite sure or you need to get ideas, Pinterest is always the go-to place. And just start sketching down a few things, and then you can have this near you and you'll be taking bits and pieces. So, you know, I might take this door and then this window, and they've all come from different things. So you're not exactly copying someone else, but you're taking bits and pieces that you like the look of, and then you bring it together to make it your own design. And my idea is going to be adding trims and rickrack and buttons and things like that to turn this into a Christmas gingerbread house. So one thing that I got the other day at my favourite sewing basket store is I did come home with a box of, where are they? Laces, just a whole box. I literally spent $12. It was the best bargain I think I've got at that store. I spent $12 and I came home with a whole bag full of stuff. So hang on, I'll just show you. Okay, so for example, I filled this tin, which is really cute. We love tins, Mum, Rach and I. So I filled this tin with bits and pieces, scraps of trims, old trims. Look at that, it's a bit marked, but who cares? For me, I don't really care. I could wash if I want to. Some of these were small scraps, some are longer. And literally, they're so used to me now when I walk in. The lady there that runs the store, that one's a good one actually. That could go on my little gingerbread house. She knows me well, and they've taken to pulling boxes of things that they haven't sorted out yet, just donations from out the back, and they just give it to me and they say, do you want to go through the laces and things like that? So sometimes, let me find an example. Most of these are longer bits, but I know I got some small ones. I'll say, for example, that's not a huge piece, and maybe they wouldn't know what to do with that because it's not very long. It would only be about just maybe 30 something centimeters on this little piece. They wouldn't know what to do with that, so I'm happy to have all those little bits and pieces because it's perfect for our slow stitching projects. So, and look at that beautiful thing. That's a huge piece. I got that for $2. But the rest of it was just thrown in a box. I don't even know what they charged me. So, and then I got a bunch of old threads as well. They're normally 70 cents each, but she gave them to me for 20 cents because sometimes they've got so much stock. They're just happy for me to sort of take it down a bit. So anyway, that's what my point is to all of that. That was just some of the stuff I got. I got some actually great bits of fabric too. Is that I got this trim, and I thought this trim would be perfect to go along the roof of the house, kind of like it's snowflakes coming off the roof. So that will be my idea. I'm going to embellish my house. I'll do a needle turn applique door. I'm thinking of I've got a nice old piece again from the sewing basket, an old piece of pink and white stripe. And then I'm going to do some windows and then embellish with things like this and then some embroidery and stuff like that. So that's the plan. All right, so I'll start off showing you the needle turn applique. I do think you know how to do this, but I'm going to show you very quickly. Then I'll turn my camera off, finish sewing it down, and then I'll come back on and start looking at how to embellish. All right, so I am just using a plain, my normal cotton, my vintage cotton. I really like using vintage cottons because if I can get them cheap at the sewing basket, I don't see why you wouldn't use them up. You don't need to go buy new stuff. So I'm very happy to use old bits and pieces. I mean, all these cottons, the ones I had last week, they're all perfectly good. I haven't had any issues with them snapping. Okay, so just a normal sewing machine cotton. I'll start down just decided I might take away just a little bit of fabric on that corner, just to reduce the bulk. I'm not going to fully cut the whole piece out. I don't want frayed edges coming out. I want this one neat. Okay, so that's now less bulky there. I've taken out a whole layer. All right, so needle turn applique. Coming up from behind, I'm going to start on the corner. Just a couple of mils into the fabric, and I'm going to do a couple of stitches in the corner to make sure it's secure. Do one more. Okay, and now I'll come along about every 3 to 4 millimeters and do a little stitch. Okay, the thread is pretty much the same color as the material, and you can't see the stitches. Okay, so once I get it going, I can get to the point where I can come under. Not yet. I'm going to go just past that little piece of fabric that's underneath, and then I'll do that. I'll show you in a sec. Now this fabric I'm using, I don't know if it's a linen actually, but it's a thicker cotton. Okay, now I've gone past it. I can go down and up in one stitch. Down and up. Yeah, so it's a thicker cotton, so where it's actually folded over, the corners are quite thick. But then I am going through thin base layers, so I'm not finding this difficult to get through. All right, so needle turn applique. I'm not having to tuck my fabric under because I've already ironed it down, and when you've got straight edges like this, it is very easy to iron them down. All right, I'm going to turn off the camera. I'm going to stitch down my house, and then I'll come back and show you where I'm at. Okay, so I'm back. I stitched down my house shape, and then I've stitched down a little door in a pink and white stripe. I've cut the trim that's going to go along the edge of the roof, and I've only pinned that in place. I haven't stitched that down yet. And I've cut out 2 little window shapes. So I want the shape to be the same as the door shape, and I have just folded over and ironed down the edges. Now on the curve, what you need to do to get the nice round shape is I've snipped it in all the way around the curve, so you can see there's little snips there, so that you can fold it and get the shape that you want. So as you stitch it down, even if the shape doesn't look perfect on the front, I'm going to show you in a sec, you use your needle to turn the fabric under. That's why it's called needle turn applique. So I'm going to show you the process of stitching one of the windows down, and then after that I'm going to make a couple of Suffolk puffs or yo-yos, and I'm going to show you how I make them. I'm going to have 2 little yo-yos on this side like they're lollipops, because after all this is a gingerbread house, and the idea is that it would be decorated with lollies. Okay, so I'll just position my little house where I want it to go and get a pin it in place. My little house, my little window. So just while I'm doing this, thought I'd let you know what we got up to on the weekend. So I think I told you that Jamie was going to have his national pipes and drums band competition. So national means that he was competing against bands from all over Australia, and also I don't know if there was any New Zealand bands there this year, but normally there are bands from New Zealand as well that come over and compete in our competition. So it's like an Australian Pacific competition normally. So historically, Jamie's school, the best place it's come is second, from what I can see from the results. I haven't looked up all the results, but certainly the results in the last 10 years. And we normally have both our A band and our B band in the competition. So they're in 2 divisions. I'm learning more and more about pipes and drums as Jamie is doing it, but essentially there are grades 1 through to 5 or 6. I'm not sure how low it goes, 5 or 6. And the school bands tend to be in grade 4. So there's grade 4A for school level, which is what Jamie's A band was in, and then there's 4B, which is what our school B band was in. And they do 2 performances. So on the Saturday, they do 2 performances, and they're competing in basically like an open division against adult and school bands. And on Saturday, they came 3rd overall, but there was only 2 points between 1st to 3rd, so it was very close. The way it works is both the pipers and the drummers get judged separately, and then I think the band gets judged overall. And they rank you based on how many bands are in your division. So let's say there was 8 bands in his division. I know in one section they were ranked first. I think one of the songs the drummers were ranked first, and then one they were ranked 3rd. And then I can't remember what the pipers were, 1st or 2nd as well. So they actually did very well. But overall, so you get your points. If you're first, you get 1 point. If you're ranked 2nd, you get 2 points. And you want to get the lowest points possible. So on the Saturday, they ended up coming 3rd. There was 1 point to 2nd and 1 more point to 1st. And that was the open section where they participated against adult and juvenile bands. And then on the Sunday, it was just the juvenile competition. So the same process, 2 songs, and the same style of judging. So on the Sunday, they actually came 2nd, 1 point behind 1st. So that was pretty good. They did very well. The only frustrating thing was it is the juvenile competition, so based on makeup of school bands. And the school band that beat them, which was from Melbourne, I won't name and shame the school. It is my dad's old school. They had 2 tutors or staff members playing with them. So one was leading the pipes and one was leading the snare drums. And the guy leading the snare drums was a phenomenal drummer. He was absolutely amazing. In fact, I'm pretty sure he was the person who was judging our bands during their kind of state competition, which we had at our school about 4 weeks ago. He's very, very talented. And all the parents from our school were like, why are their adults or tutors, teachers, being allowed to play with the band in the juvenile competition? So we were all a little bit puzzled by that. We know that the adults do play with the band sometimes, but that's not normally, it's normally when they're competing against the adult bands, not when they're competing in the juvenile competition. So I did ask one of our drum tutors, and he obviously was really frustrated by it, but he said it's really annoying and it shouldn't happen, but technically they are apparently allowed to do it. And I feel, I'm no expert here on pipes and drums, but I feel like that definitely gave them an advantage. And they came first in all the drumming sections because I feel like this teacher or tutor led the drums. Our pipers actually came first in all the piping sections, but their drummers beat our drummers, which was Jamie's part. So I don't know, I'd be interested to sort of see if they didn't have those staff members with the band, if they would have got the same result. And only having beaten us by 1 point, the boys were literally 1 point off being the national champions. So frustrating. One of the parents was pretty funny from our school when they announced the winners. He kind of yelled out in a jokey way because he's not a nasty dad. He was just kind of being funny. He yelled out, "Cheats! They weren't a juvenile band." It's kind of true, they weren't. Having 2 adult experts in there. So anyway, it was actually really good to see them play. My dad came out to watch, which was good. He saw his old school compete, and also both Jamie and his cousin Cooper competing. So he got to see his 2 grandsons play. Jamie grandson and Cooper step grandson. So that was exciting. And we did have a lovely weekend out there watching. And our A band came second. Our B band, they came first on points, equal first with the other school that beat Jamie. But they were read out as second, so we're not quite sure why that happened. Maybe they only had a first and second trophy and they did it alphabetically. I'm not sure, but the points say they were equal first, but they were read out as second. So we pretty much got a second and a second on the day, and I think that's probably the best result ever, having both bands do so well. So very exciting for the boys. An exhausting weekend for Jamie holding up that bass drum, and 2 days of practice beforehand and then 2 days of performance. He was pretty tired, and then of course this week was feeling run down on Monday after that big weekend, sore throat, and anyway we ended up COVID testing him because he was going to have lunch with his dad, and his dad's about to go to Fiji, and he had a sore throat, and I said, like, Jamie, I probably need to test, just you've had a sore throat for a couple of days. And we tested him and he's tested positive to COVID, so he's fine. He's only got a mild sore throat and a little bit of a runny nose going on, but luckily we did test. The first 2 tests were inconclusive, just rat tests at home, and then I did a different brand, a third test, and the third one came up straight away as positive. So he's now stuck in isolation all of this week, Monday through to Friday, and hopefully he tests negative on Friday, and that will mean on Saturday he can come out of isolation. You only have to isolate for 5 days here at the moment, and in fact as of about, what is it, next Wednesday I think it is, or Thursday, you no longer have to isolate as long as you test negative. So if he was positive today and tests negative tomorrow, as of next week he could come out of isolation. So the rules are definitely easing off over here. So anyway, I'm glad he didn't see his dad, because his dad is going to Fiji, and where he comes from, and he does come from a little village where I don't know how much opportunities or access they've had to vaccinations. I'm not sure if the people in his village have been vaccinated. And, you know, they don't always have good access to healthcare over there. It is, you know, many people can be quite poor, and certainly in his village, in lots of the villages, not just his, but lots of them. So, you know, you'd feel terrible if, you know, his dad Revi got COVID and then took it back to the village. That would be really upsetting. So I'm glad that he did end up testing and found out that he can't see his dad before he goes to Fiji, so they'll just have to chat on the phone instead. But anyway, luckily for Jamie, it's just mild at the moment. He's certainly had the day at home Xboxing all day, but the thing is, as he's close contact, I don't have to isolate. So I tested as well today just to be sure. I've got no symptoms, but tested as well, and I was negative, so you know, that was okay. I could pop out to the supermarket and stuff. Anyway, it might be different where people are coming from. I'm not hearing much about COVID really around here at the moment. He might have picked it up on the weekend. I'm not sure how many days from exposure until you start displaying symptoms. But his came up on Monday after he'd been at the comp. It probably wouldn't have been that quick, actually. So he could have got it anywhere. He was on holidays last week, so it could have been anywhere. Yeah, so that's what we've been doing or dealing with. And then we've got the rest of this week. So Jamie at home. I'll probably just stay home with him while he recovers, and then I'm back to work on Monday. And Jamie's not back to school until Tuesday. He's hoping that he does test negative, because I think on Monday Jamie and his mates want to go go-karting, so he wants to be all clear to be able to do that. So by Monday, he's actually 7 days since he first showed symptoms, so hopefully he'll be okay. So anyway, you saw me needle turn that one. I'll pop off the video, and then I'm going to come back. Actually, I may as well do it. No, I'm going to leave. No, I'm going to pop off the video. I'll finish stitching this, and then I'm going to come and show you how I make Suffolk puffs, which I'm going to do out of this red fabric. Okay, I'll be back in a sec. All right, so my windows are down. That one's a little bit crooked, a bit of an angle, but it doesn't matter. Not too fussed, as usual, with mistakes. All right, so I'm going to show you how to make Suffolk puffs. if you haven't, if you don't have access to old ones or you'd like to make some. So firstly, it's nice if you've got a soft fabric. This is actually an old sheet, and I bought this as fabric, an old piece of sheeting, and it's very thin and soft, so it's perfect for Suffolk puffs. And what I did is you just need to find something round. It could be a cup, a glass, whatever you want. I just had this little tin here, and I drew around it with my friction pen. You won't be able to see the blue line. It can iron out. And then I just cut it straight on that line. Now, what you do is you do a knot at the end of your thread. But what I've done is, hang on, show you again. I have placed my knot just there. So I've actually got a little bit of a tail, which is useful for when you need to tie off your puff. So all you do, having the wrong side facing up, what you do is you just slightly turn over the edge. So that's probably just less than 1/4 of an inch turned over. And I'm going to come from the right side upwards. So my knot is actually going to be on the outside of the fabric. Okay, and you're going to do a running stitch all the way around as you turn the fabric in. So I'm going about 1/4 of an inch along, not too close together. Otherwise you're going to have too many gathers in your puff. And then turn it over a bit and up about the same distance. It doesn't matter if you go a little bit further. Okay. So you can see my little running stitch there. Okay, keep just approximately folding it over 1/4 of an inch. Doesn't have to be perfect. And you keep going all the way around the puff, around the circle. And you can make these any size that you want. I'll show you a demonstration between. So this, I measured it was 3 inches across. A fairly standard puff, I'm pretty sure, starts with a circle that's about 4 inches across, approximately 4 inches. But what I'll do is I'll finish this one, I'll show you the comparison, and I'll measure it so you can see what the difference is once it's done. Just doing a running stitch. Bit slow going. So I think I'll finish the video tonight with just showing you my puffs and where I'm going to put them. And then next week in my video I'll be coming back, and that's where all the fun stuff will be, where I will be embellishing my gingerbread house. So it will have some little features. I'll probably put some rickrack somewhere. It will need some little bits of embroidery and nice sort of decorations to jazz it up. So that at the moment this really just looks like a little house. I've got to do the embellishments so that it looks like the gingerbread house. And then if I can fit it, I was thinking of having a little gingerbread man as well. So we'll just see what that's going to look like, if that will look any good. I might do my gingerbread man out of felted wool. Try and get a colour that's similar to that, because that's my light linen colour, which is meant to be my gingerbread colour. Okay, we are almost there. This is just something that you could do. You could have a bunch of circles cut out and just do this while watching TV, sitting in front of the TV and gradually sewing little Suffolk puffs or yo-yos. And I mean, I've got a container of old ones, which I love, but it's always good to be able to make your own as well, so you can get the colours that you're after. So I wanted these to look like not candy canes, lollipops. I'm thinking of doing some candy canes on the side. I just have to find a nice red and white striped fabric. I'm also going to do baker's twine around the outside of my door. I'm going to couch that on. I'm thinking of embroidering a wreath on the door. And then there's going to be some other decoration around the windows, around the door, etc. So you'll see that all next week. But I think you kind of saw some of my ideas from my little sketches. Okay, we're just about there. And what I want is, because my knot's on the outside, I want my thread to end up on the outside along with the other one. Okay, so what you're going to do, you're going to push the fabric down a bit and just gently tug at it. Don't yank it too hard, you don't want to snap your thread. So I'm just gathering the fabric. Just pushing the gathers around a bit to make it a bit easier. And here's my other, sorry, a bit wonky. So here's my other tail end with my knot, and what I'm going to do is gathering it in. I'll show you how I flatten it in a sec. I'm just going to tie a little knot between the two threads. Okay, and you won't notice this. I'm going to show you how to sort of get rid of it. Just trying to keep it tight. Bit fiddly. At the moment, it looks like a shower cap. Okay, and then you can I just stitch through the fabric, and in a sec you won't see, I just go through it a couple of times. Just to finish off, I'm going to go over the other string just to hold it down. See that? Oops, I've hooked a knot. Let me undo it. Okay, so I've just gone over that a bit. I'm going to snip off my tails very short. Okay, and now here, this is a little puff. I wanted little ones. So now you just work it out. And there's your little Suffolk puff. So to give you an idea, there's the back. And the measurement of it is, it's gone from 3 inches down to about 1 1/4, just over 1 1/4 inch. And I wanted them quite small because they're going to be my little candy canes, one on each side of my door, and I'll put a little stick there. So I'll get a white thread or string and I'll couch it down as the stick. Okay, so just to give you a little bit of an idea, I'm going to use just a red and white. This is just a cheap baker's twine from the Hot Dollar shop. It's going to be couched down around the door. And then I'm just looking, I've got some rickrack. I will probably, don't know what colour yet, but I'll run some rickrack across. I'll do some decorations, some embroidery. I might put a heart in the middle there, etc. So that is to give you an idea of what my gingerbread house is looking like. Actually, that's nice colour rickrack. Anyway, I will play around with some ideas and I'll come back to you next week and finish the embellishing, the fun part. Okay, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy the themes and can't wait to see what you do. I'll see you next week. Bye.